just remember looking up, closing my eyes, and saying, God, if it has to be between the two of us, please keep my baby. And when I closed my eyes, I made up in my mind that I was dying and that I was not going to wake up. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Ikea. I would like to say thank you for taking the time out of your day or your evening, wherever you're watching this, to hang out with me. So I just want to begin the video by saying, and well, as you guys can tell by the title of this video, this is all about my birthing story. My daughter was delivered at 29 weeks via emergency C-section, which was caused by a placenta eruption due to pre-eclampsia. For those who are new to this channel, my husband and I embarked on an IVF journey back in 2019, ultimately having a successful pregnancy on our first cycle. And at 10 weeks, my fertility clinic decided that they wanted to graduate me, which is not typical. Usually they wait until about 12 weeks, but because we were in the middle of the pandemic, they were graduating people a little earlier. At the recommendation of my RE, I was to not only see my OB, but a maternal fetal medicine doctor. The maternal fetal medicine doctor's responsibility was my baby, and then of course my OB's responsibility was me. So the way the appointments were arranged, I would see my OB on a Tuesday, and within the same week on that Wednesday, I would go to the maternal fetal medicine doctor. My OB did not do anything regarding the baby. She would just check her heart rate at every appointment, but for everything else, ultrasound, birth weight, measuring, things like that was all handled with the maternal fetal medicine physicians. For the most part, I had a pretty good pregnancy. All throughout my first trimester, going up into my 20th week of pregnancy, I had only gained 10 pounds. My OB thought it was very important that I didn't gain any more than 25 pounds throughout the duration of my pregnancy. Around 18 weeks pregnant, my husband and I were out shopping, and I ended up fainting in a store. It was on a Sunday, very late afternoon, maybe 5 o'clock-ish. And when I came to, I felt okay, so I didn't feel the need to go by ambulance because we were about an hour away from home. And I just drank some Gatorade and we went home. I ended up calling my doctor's office that same Sunday, got in contact with some folks through the emergency line, and they had me come in that next day, which was Monday. I just figured that I had maybe some heat exhaustion from the mask, and it was so hot, and that I might have been dehydrated. At that Monday appointment, my doctor did some lab work and everything like that, and I had to do a urine sample. From that urine sample, they discovered I had some pretty high levels of protein in my urine. Immediately I thought, okay, that's pre-eclampsia, but my doctor was like, no, we're not going to call it pre-eclampsia, because just because you have protein in your urine does not necessarily mean that you have pre-eclampsia. There are women who have pre-eclampsia that does not have protein in their urine at all. So she just wanted to monitor it, but she did, tell me I needed to take it easy. I need to eliminate sugars from my diet. And so that's what I did. I eliminated sugar. Like whatever I would drink was 0 sugar, no sugar. Started walking more, increasing my water intake. From that appointment, she also decided that it was important that I do a 24-hour urine kit, because she wanted to see, if this was just like maybe an isolated incident with the protein, or if it's really in there. At this point, I'm about 19 weeks when I did the urine kit, and it did show that I had high levels of protein in my urine. So at that point, she just wanted to monitor me, and we didn't want to call it preeclampsia. By my 20th week appointment, I was feeling great. I was feeling fine. I was having like some back pains and things like that, but nothing abnormal. Well, what I would consider abnormal, so I was okay. By my 24th week appointment, I was up 15 pounds, which was a huge shock because, again, I had eliminated sugar. I was walking more. I had increased my water intake. So I was like, how did I go from my full first trimester up into 20 weeks, only gaining 10 pounds? And then in 4 weeks, I'm up 15 pounds. I didn't understand it. My doctor just assumed that I was eating recklessly, which I was not. I never had any outlandish cravings or anything. By these 24 weeks as well, I started to notice the swelling of my feet. Around week 21, 22, I started having night trembles, or just trembles in general, where I would just start shaking uncontrollably. I thought it was seizures when I contacted them, but they said that it was not seizures, that I was not having a seizure. I was having cramping, I was having bad headaches. Again, my feet were beginning to swell, just very uncomfortable feeling. By my 24th week maternal fetal medicine appointment, he said that he thought that the baby showed signs of fetal growth restriction, which means that the placenta is not providing the proper oxygen, nutrients, or blood flow. He didn't want to say for sure, but he was pretty certain based off of her gestational age that she was pretty much underweight. And from there was a lot of emotions, anxiety, and things like that, because ultimately, when a baby has fetal growth restriction, it could be fatal in a lot of cases. When I asked him, well, what can be causing this, he said one factor is pre-eclampsia. He notated that in the system for my OB to be aware of. And again, time is going on. I'm still having the night trembles, or just trembling in general, not necessarily at night, but often. I'm still getting bigger. I'm swelling, real bad back pains, headaches, the cramping, all of that. I'm just feeling really bad. By that 28th week appointment, I was up an additional 15 pounds. So within 8 weeks, I gained 30 pounds. And she never wanted to call it preeclampsia. At this point, she was like, okay, I'm going to start seeing you weekly. I want to start seeing you weekly. And we'll just continue to monitor you. And at this point, I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, something is not right. I'm not feeling good. It's hard for me to breathe. It's hard for me to walk. You can, if you stuck your finger like in my ankle or leg, you could see an indent, like it was leaving an indentation. But there was no alarm or concern for her. At my 28th week maternal fetal medicine appointment, he definitely said at this point, this is definitely fetal growth restriction, because she's not at the weight that they was expecting at 28 weeks. And again, he just notated the system for my OB and was just telling me that, you know, I just need to take it easy. It wasn't much that we could do at that point, but he would continue to monitor me. And at this point, he wanted to begin seeing me weekly as well. Again, there was never any explanation like, okay, if this gets severe, you're going to have to be hospitalized, or, you know, we need to give you high blood pressure medication. There was never any talk of that. It was just, you know, we'll just continue to monitor you, but ultimately everything looks fine. That was at my 28-week appointment. Now I'm here going into 29 weeks, and the same symptoms and problems that I've been having for the last 8 weeks are beginning to get to the point now to where I can't function. You know, walking is causing me to be out of breath. I'm in pain all the time, and I am naturally the type of person that just keep on going. It'll be okay. I'll get through it type of person. And I did that for 8 whole weeks before finally saying, okay, something is not right. Enough is enough, because I'm no longer thinking about myself. If it was just me, I'm the type of person I just push through it. But now I have to think about my unborn, right? So I'm walking to the top of my stairs, and I was dreading walking down because I was just so tired just getting to the top of the stairs. So I sit at the top of the stairs to call the doctor's office. I leave a message based off of how I was sounding, because I was extremely winded, just trying to explain what was going on. They immediately called me back and said they need to see me like within the hour. I live about 30 minutes away, so they were asking could I get here, you know, within an hour. My husband takes me to the doctor's office, and the first thing they do, of course, is weigh me. Within 8 days, I had gained an additional 20 pounds. I had already gained 30 pounds in 8 weeks, and now here I am up an additional 20 pounds in 8 days. The CNA eyes, like, she was like, okay, something's not right. She takes me to the room. My doctor was not at the office. She was actually on call at the hospital at the time. I could hear the CNA talking to the physician that was at my doctor's office, and she was like, something is not right. She was just here last week. I don't know. She should not be up 20 pounds. The doctor come in and she said, hey, we need to get you to the hospital immediately. You have to get there now, doctor. My doctor needs to see me. She needs to examine me. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And she was like, well, she will explain everything. So of course I'm freaking out. Anxiety is kicking in because I'm like, why isn't anybody telling me anything, you know? And we get to the hospital, and I'm extremely emotional, crying, just telling my husband, like, I just want to see her face. Like, I don't want to die. I really just want to see my baby's face. And when we get there, the nurses and everything there hooking me up, giving me all type of medications because my blood pressure is over 200. And they're telling me I just need to calm down. It's going to be okay. At this point, this is Thursday, October 1st. They're giving me all kind of medications, connecting me to IVs. My doctor finally comes in to examine me, and I'm like, well, what is going on? And you know, she was like, unfortunately, the pre-eclampsia just took over. Well, when were we going to call it pre-eclampsia? Because for the last 8 weeks, you were telling me we're just going to monitor it. You never said anything about this being pre-eclampsia. So how did we get... So I'm upset. I'm extremely emotional. My husband is trying to get me to calm down. I'm texting my family like, I don't know what's going on, because in 1 minute they're saying, oh, it's okay, we're just going to monitor you for a little bit, with me thinking, okay, they're going to do what they need to do to get my blood pressure down, then I'm going to go back home. But then the next nurse will come in and she's talking as if I'm going to be delivering my baby soon. So I'm texting my family. I'm like, I feel as though they are trying to prep me for delivery, and I'm only 29 weeks. I was getting extremely emotional because I'm like, it's too early to be talking about delivering her. So throughout the night, my blood pressure will fluctuate. It never really dropped below 175 that first day. It would just go up and down, and it stayed between the range of like 200 and 175. My doctor never mentioned transporting me to another hospital or anything like that. Again, at that point, I was just under the impression that I would be staying there at least through the weekend, and then possibly being taken home, being discharged on that Monday. Well, the next morning, Friday, October the 2nd, my doctor's associate comes in and she say, hey, we're going to have to transport you to the hospital downtown because our NICU isn't equipped to handle babies prior to 34 weeks. And I'm like, okay, so are we delivering her? And she's like, no, this is just a precaution. You know, it's just that our NICU isn't equipped for babies prior to 34 weeks, and we can't say what's going to happen. So, you know, we just want to make sure that you're being well taken care of. I appreciate it, but I'm like, so is it that far gone to where y'all feel as though my baby is coming? No, not at all. You know, it was so stressful because they're not saying, they're giving me a whole bunch of nothing. I'm asking, what is going on? Why is this happening? And they have no explanation for me. How can my blood pressure go down when y'all giving me all this stress and anxiety? So I'm transported to the hospital downtown, taken immediately to labor and delivery. So whatever I don't know what the notes said, but clearly the hospital I was transported to thought they were going to deliver my baby. Because when I got there, they're giving me the COVID test. I'm signing waivers and information about epidurals and all of this stuff. And I'm like, so are y'all talking about delivering my baby today? And they're like, oh, no, it's just a precaution. If I heard precaution and calm down one more time, I was going to, swollen and all, I was ready to square up with somebody because I was tired. I was so frustrated because it's like, how did I go from you're fine to being admitted into the hospital? Then the kicker was, now they're saying you can't go home until the baby is delivered. We went from monitoring me to now I can't even leave this hospital until my daughter is delivered, and she's not due till December 15th, and it's October 2nd. What? How did we get here? And still no full explanation as to why I'm here. So that day, October 2nd, my blood pressure is still fluctuating. It's still going between the 200s and 175. Later that evening around, they were putting me on everything. Magnesium, I was hooked up to everything. I felt so loopy. I really thought I was dying at one point. It was just so scary and frustrating because you're just confused. Like, how it happened so fast. How did this happen so fast? My blood pressure continued to fluctuate. Finally, on October 3rd, my angel walked into... So on Friday, October 3rd, another physician who helps out the current physicians on that ward, she works one Saturday a month. No particular Saturday, whether it's the first, second, or third. She just helps out one Saturday a month. Well, she comes in early morning, the day of October 3rd, and let me know, hey, we're going to move you from labor and delivery since your blood pressure had been going down some. My blood pressure finally went down to about 160, which for them was better than the 200s. So I was out of that danger zone, and they decided to move me to special care. There I could have the catheter removed from me. I can have a shower. I can eat a normal meal because I had been on a liquid diet. And so I felt good about that. I'm like, okay, so I'm asking, well, will I be able to go home? And she's like, well, we're not there just yet, but as long as you know your blood pressure continue to go down and everything looks good, possibly. We moved to the new room, and they had to weigh me again, and from October 1st to October 3rd, I gained an additional 8 pounds. So, of course, I'm freaking out because I'm like, why is my weight still going up? My feet are continuing to swell. And the nurse just explained, you know, unfortunately, this is what pre-eclampsia does. It has a mind of its own, and it can just take over the body. But you are where you need to be. And I heard that from so many people. My mother, my work mom, my grandmother, my husband. Like, look, we're here. We're at the hospital. You're safe. It's fine. I'm still under the impression that, you know, at least by Monday, I'll be being released. I can at least go home. Even if they say I have to be on bed rest, I just want to get out of this hospital. Early morning of October 4th, around 1:45, I rolled over, just trying to adjust my sleep position, and it felt like something had popped inside of me. It didn't hurt, but it was just a very awkward and weird feeling. It just felt like something popped. I never felt anything like that before. So I get up to go to the restroom, and when I turned on the lights, I saw nothing but blood. It was just blood everywhere, and I remember screaming. I just remember screaming so loud, and the nurse's aide came running in, and although she was, you know, telling me like, it's okay, you're okay, like her eyes were in a state of shock. And so she grabs me and trying to walk me back to the bed, and at this point I don't feel any pain. I just see blood, so I think because of the amount of blood I was seeing, I was just in shock. And still the lights are in the room are off, so she flicks the light on, and that's when we see like the severity of the amount of blood that I lost. She takes me back to the bed, and when she pulls the sheet back, there's a pool of blood in the bed. And so now I'm just like reality is kicking in, like this is a dangerous situation. Now I'm crying, I'm just crying uncontrollably, and she's like, it's okay. Next thing you know, it's like 9 healthcare professionals in the room with me, and my angel, the doctor, she's like, okay, Ikea, I need you to calm down. They put the Doppler back on me because prior to, baby girl never showed any signs of distress. Her heart rate was always great. Even when my stress levels were at this peak on October 1st and 2nd, her heart rate was always really good. Well, at this point, and I can't, for some reason, I just can't remember whether her heart rate had increased or decreased. I really think it was decreasing, which is why they got me out so quickly. But I remember grabbing the phone because my husband and I, we went back and forth because I made him go to work because they had moved me to this room. I was doing good. My blood pressure was going down because even by that night, about when my blood pressure was last checked at midnight, my blood pressure was only like 145, 150, which is not great, but it's way better than 200. So, of course, my husband is not here. He's at work. And so I'm trying to contact my husband, and I'm like crying, like, no. And so the doctor was like, are you feeling any pain at the time? Because I was in so much shock. I didn't feel anything. And it wasn't until she asked me is when I guess everything kicked in. I was like, just a little bit, you know, but I'm still like crying. I was like, I feel a little pain, but I didn't feel much. I remember all of their eyes, like everyone was just looking so shocked and scared, and which was making me even more anxious and afraid. I remember the doctor saying, like, we have 8 minutes. I just remember 8 minutes. I remember specifically her saying 8 minutes, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. I'm just screaming like, no, I can't do this by myself. I don't want to die. Please, Lord, don't let me die. I just want to see, and I just kept saying, I want to see her face. I have to see her face. I have to see her face. And one of the nurses grabbed my hand, and she was like, Ikea, you are going to see her face, but we need you to calm down for the sake of you and the baby. And they rushed me into OR in a matter of minutes, and get me to the bed. And I could feel like they had to shove the catheter back inside of me. I could feel the solution being put on my stomach for them to shave, for the cut. And then the last thing I remember was the anesthesiologist, because I remember grabbing her hand. And when I grabbed her hand was so cold. I remember her hand being so cold, and I remember just grabbing her hand, and I looked her in her eyes, and I said, I do not want to die. And she said, Ikea, I promise you, you are not dying tonight. You are not going to die tonight. And as comforting and as reassuring as her words and her eyes were, I didn't believe it. So right before they gave me the gas mask and the anesthesia, I just remember looking up, closing my eyes, and saying, God, if it has to be between the two of us, please keep my baby. And when I closed my eyes, I made up in my mind that I was dying and that I was not going to wake up. In that moment, I came to terms with death. I had accepted it for what it was. I honestly did not believe I was going to be able to wake up and see her. So I come to, and I'm in recovery. I had to have a blood transfusion. I lost a large amount of blood. When I woke up, my husband was there, and they told me that she was here. I woke up in recovery, and you know, I'm out of it. You know, I've lost so much blood and I'm in a lot of pain. So they had the blood dripping, giving me the transfusion. And I just remember asking, was she okay? And they said she's perfect. You know, she's down in NICU, but she's fine. She was 2.5 pounds. And they got her out in less than 10 minutes. And I asked the doctor, who's now my current OB, I love her. I asked her what happened, and she said, unfortunately, your placenta had ruptured. And thank God we were already at the hospital, because had we been home and had my stubborn behind continued to push through as I would typically do, we wouldn't have made it. We would not have made it. Baby girl spent a total of 48 days in the NICU. She rocked it out. She did absolutely amazing. She was progressing week by week. Her weight did go down. She was delivered at 2.5 pounds, and her weight went down, which is, I guess, typical even with full-term babies. But she went down to about 2 pounds, and her weight slowly picked up. We were able to take her home. She had issues with her heart, and which is awesome. As they explained to us, pretty normal for babies born that early and at her weight. She was having issues with bradycardias, and she had a small brain bleed, which is another thing that they say is pretty typical for babies at her age and weight. We didn't have any major issues. She's perfectly fine. At her 6-month development appointment, you know, he said that she was operating on a full-term spectrum. You wouldn't have known that she was premature based off of her development. She's doing phenomenal now, trying to walk. She's currently 11 months. She'll be turning a year old in less than a week. And we are thankful, we are blessed. Just to know that it could have been totally different is something that I still deal with. I know I'm grateful and I'm thankful that she and I both are here, but just knowing that you were that close to death it does something to you, you know. Knowing that she and I both could have been dead. Like, we could have been dead at the negligence of my OB, because she refused to do her job. And to find out, all I needed was a blood pressure medication, which was recommended by my RE in the notes. It was just so much negligence, so much negligence. And then what really caused the depression was when shortly after I was released, I spent a total of 8 days in the hospital. And then shortly after I was released, I read an article where a doctor had died on the table delivering, and the baby, they was able to save the baby, but the mother ultimately died. And it was like, that's my story, the same exact situation, you know. It was just so heartbreaking, but we're here, we made it. I dumped my old OB because I was just done. I was like, you know, the unprofessionalism, it was so much afterwards. That would have to be a whole nother story time. Like, it was just so unprofessional. I almost lost it. And had I not had to remind myself that I had a baby that was in NICU that needed me, I probably would have went to jail. Honestly, I was so done. But the blessing is that me and my baby are here. We're here. She's happy. She's healthy. And yeah, so that is my birthing story. I did end up going to counseling right after being released from the hospital, because I knew that this was not something that I can just get through myself. That was so traumatic. It was so traumatic. I knew that I couldn't get through that. Coming home after being released and not having her, and her not being inside of me, it really messed with me mentally. So I sought out counseling, and I did counseling for a little while just to help me cope. And it helped. It helped a lot. Then with the amazing support of my husband and my family, and I just have a phenomenal support system, and they got us through this. You know, it was extremely hard, but we made it through. And here we are almost a year later. So yeah, that's my birthing story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. I hope that what I explained that happened to me and the issues that I was experiencing resonate with someone, whether it's yourself that's pregnant or someone you know, and if they're having these symptoms and you notice these signs, please, please, please trust your gut instinct. I knew the whole time what it was, you know, but my doctor did not want to call it that. She refused to call it that. Everyone around me, the maternal fetal medicine doctors, everyone knew, and she just refused to call it what it was. And because of her negligence, I almost lost my life. My baby almost lost her life. And pre-eclampsia is serious. It is serious, and it affects so many women, and we cannot afford. That's a whole nother soapbox. I'm gonna stop right there, but thank you so much for watching this video. Again, feel free to ask me anything, any questions that you have about my symptoms, our NICU experience, whatever. I'm an open book. And until next video, as always, be humble, stay beautiful, be blessed, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.